First and foremost, thank you for, coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. And, and I just wanted to kind of ask you, like, how did you get into like training and fitness in general, like in your life?
My dad was a football coach for
Hmm.
30 years, and I'm no stranger to the weight room.
Hmm.
But, I had two children, and in raising them, I ended up getting pretty overweight for about 10 years. I weighed like 200 pounds. And basically, there's just a little aha moment that I had and decided, you know what, I'm done. I'm done with being overweight. I want to eat healthy. And I just started there. And now March 23rd will be 10 years
Oh,
that
wow.
from the aha moment.
So let me ask you this, because that's something that a lot of people like deal with. Like even I personally, like, yeah, even if it hasn't been like a ton of weight that I wanted to lose, every so often, you're like, oh, I want to lose some weight, but then you kind of get kind of dragged back into like the eating style that you already kind of established. Did you have aha moments in prior to that last one, and then you kind of like went back to it, or you weren't thinking about it and all of a sudden one day you just like, I'm done, like with this?
Well, it was pretty much one day I was done and I did never turn back. But I've always been an athlete. And so up until, it was 2011,
Hmm.
March 23rd, 2011, I basically, I'd go to the gym. I do a few, lightweight lifting classes. I really liked step. I ran a half marathon when I was, pretty much my heaviest and lost like 20 pounds, but, gained it all back. So I kind of did quite a bit of stuff. And my husband was at the time working out at a gym. He's not necessarily really much into fitness. And he kept saying, hey, you feel like coming? I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm just not ready. And so what happened was we had started becoming friends with a group of people that were about 10 years younger than me.
Hmm.
And I thought that they were just, super gorgeous. And, at that time I weighed 200 pounds. I was probably almost 40% body fat and,
Hmm.
buying clothes that were pretty much, covering up covering up the fat because I
Hmm.
felt horrible. I had a whole closet full, because that was kind of my addiction, to see if I could find something that would look good
Yeah.
and cover it all up.
What would you so that, I guess, meeting those people kind of like helped you move along into into you know doing better, I guess, so to speak, for lack of a better term?
Sort of.
Hmm.
It was literally one night. We all took a limousine and went to a Lady Gaga concert. And have you read any of the story about it? Because in my before and afters, I've written stuff
I
now
have
and then.
I have not, but well, I'd like you to share if you can.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I've loved Lady Gaga forever. She's,
Okay.
absolutely phenomenal. And so when we went to the concert, they're all wearing cute, dressed up, like costumes, like stuff. Because
Mhm.
about 10 years ago, that's what Lady Gaga stuff was. So people
Right.
were dressed up in like costumes and all that kind of stuff. And I'm wearing a long sweater over a muumuu, and just, really just not feeling like I fit in. And when
Mhm.
I listened to the concert, it was like she was directing, like channeling, directing everything at me. Like
Mhm.
her message was, be a strong woman. And I always have been, but I lost that while I was,
Mhm.
with my kids. I was raising my kids and
Right.
didn't spend a lot of time on me. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This is
Yeah.
stupid. Why am I doing this to myself? And
Yeah.
so the story behind that was, for 5 years, I had been, my habit, because I don't drink, I'm not a drinker.
Mhm.
My habit was going to Starbucks and getting a mocha frappuccino and either a donut or banana nut bread 365 days a year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's That was my habit, and that's why I was so fat. I mean, I
Yeah.
was still exercising, but I I just didn't care. And
Yeah.
so that moment, I at the Lady Gaga concert, I said, "This is it. I'm done. I'm
Mhm.
allowing myself one a week. That's it." So for 2 months, that's what I did. Instead of every single day, that was my habit. I had to get to
Mhm.
Starbucks to get my mocha frappuccino and banana nut bread.
Yeah. That it's amazing to me, like, how hidden some of that stuff is. Like, and I guess it's not truly hidden because you could easily find out how much how many calories are in things. But like to the general public, like most people don't think about like how many calories are in something that could be physically very small. Like, and that it like completely like ruins people because it's done, it's done it to me. Like I've eaten stuff, and then when I became more conscious of like what I'm eating, I look back into like the little things that I thought weren't that many calories, and they were like an exorbitant amount. Like then it's like no wonder I like gained so much weight. And so yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. And it's interesting how like you can find inspiration from different things, right? Like obviously that was like a big moment, for you. And after that, you just decided to go ahead and make a change and stuck with it. So you definitely in tip top shape now, that's for sure.
Well, it's been 10 years, but
Hmm.
at first I lost 20 pounds in 2 months just from limiting my Starbucks
Hmm.
and then also cutting out soda. I just didn't drink soda at all.
Hmm.
And then it took me 9 months to lose 60 pounds. So I went from 200 to about 140. And then
Hmm.
after that, just year by year, I kept training at the same place and I just kept putting on more muscle and more muscle. And then I finally said, you know what, bucket list, I'm going to do a show.
Interesting.
I'm
Yeah.
going to do one show.
So before we get into your competitive career, if you had to, so you being a mom and had to deal with this, and something that a lot of mothers have to deal with, right? You're constantly like worrying about your kids, and that's your full time, prime time job, and so it should be. But if you had to go back, or you had to, speak to other moms about this, like, is there anything that you might say, you want to add to that time frame of having children that will help you to not become overweight? Like, is there something you're like, oh, I wish I would have done, and it was possible to do? Like, obviously we don't want you to like neglect your children for yourself, but like, was there something you could have added, or you recommend the mothers do that would benefit them during this time where they're raising their kids so they don't become, so overweight?
Definitely. There's a couple of things that, growing up, my mom was an at-home mom and she cooked all the time. And, for the most part, it wasn't like crazy healthy like I eat now.
Hmm.
But she cooked really good, and every night we ate out like once a month. And so in today's day and age, that's a lot different. We have
Hmm.
so many fast food restaurants, places that we can go, and when I was taking my kids my kids were, really into sports. They were on AAU teams. So every weekend we were gone, and we would just eat out. And um, I never had information on like meal prep. I didn't see anybody else doing that. If I had that information back then, I would have taken an ice chest with me every weekend. I
Hmm.
wouldn't have eaten out. Um, I would have prepared my food for my kids, healthier stuff for my kids and for myself. That's one thing. The second thing is, I think that a lot of women get caught up in taking care of their children and making them important, that they don't realize that they're important too, and that they
Hmm.
have to at some point carve out just some time for them that's their time.
Hmm.
And for me, if I would have exercised, that could have, been all of it. But eating is 80% of the problem. So
Yeah.
I would say that if people would learn to prep their meals and take them with them, it's huge.
That's a big major difference, huh? Okay. Well, like that old adage, I mean, I guess if you take care of yourself, then you can take care of others, right? If you don't take care of yourself, then it's hard to, eventually become diminished. It's hard to take care of anyone else. So in this
I
case,
think that a lot of women feel guilty. that they're
Mhm.
taking time for themselves, which is sad because
Mhm.
they really shouldn't. I mean, I know a lot of women who have, I used to teach high school, and a
Mhm.
lot of my students are now having babies, and they're saying, yeah, I just feel so guilty going back to the gym. I'm like, take that time for yourself. Do
Yeah.
it. And mentally too. I mean, not everybody is like this, but I love the gym. And whenever I
Mm.
have a problem, having a bad day, if I just go work out, by the end of the workout, the chemicals in my body have changed my outlook on whatever the problem is, and things are better for me.
Absolutely. I just did a show like an hour ago with a girl who turned a pro in wellness this year, and she was just talking about how training and fitness has really like transformed her mind and mentally helped her dealing with like a lot of like substance abuse and mental health issues in her family. So it's really like benefited her, and I hear that all the time, like and from drastic cases to like just common cases, like just feeling better, throughout the day. So yeah, absolutely. So I guess let's go like onto your competitive career. So you start your first show, you just say, let's just do it. So what show did you do, and how did that kind of come about?
The show I did was a local show. It wasn't NPC sanctioned. It
Hmm.
was, and I had been to the show a couple of times and seen people compete, and so I was kind of excited. I asked somebody that I had watched at an NPC show at the Chico show. It used to be called the Chico show at that time. And I asked if she would coach me, and she was just getting into it as well. So she said, "Here's my coach. Why don't you reach out to him?" I hired a coach, and it was just a bucket list thing for me. I really thought, hey, I'm just going to do one show. I told my family, let's just see. It was an 8-week prep, wasn't very long.
Hmm.
Um, I had just pretty much lost all the weight, and we were lining up backstage, and I'm not a nervous person. Like, in today, when I line up, this is like, I'm ready to go. Let's
Hmm.
put on the show. But when I lined up for that first show, I was so sick to my stomach. I realize when people get really nervous that they get sick. Some people get sick to their stomach.
Yeah.
I was so sick to my stomach until I took that first step on stage.
Mm.
When I took that first step on stage, it was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I mean, also when I was 18, I mean, mind you, that was back when I stepped on stage, I'm not sure. It was 2000. I'd have to do the math, but I think I was like 45. Doing a bikini show. I wasn't doing figure at that time. I was doing a
Hmm.
bikini show. And um, it was just like, this is meant for me. But back when I was 18, I did get on stage. I did a beauty contest.
Hmm.
I was Miss Butte County back when I was 18 years
Okay.
old.
Hmm.
So stepping back on stage was like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. And then I'm like, I got to do another. I didn't place at
Hmm.
all. It was pretty poor, even though I don't know. There are a lot of politics, but things do change now. But
Sure.
at that time, I'm like, I'm going to show you.
Hmm.
So I
That's
did an NPC show next, and I got second in my age class.
awesome, awesome. So that's nice that they like that they do these. Well, I guess it's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's like so they have in the NPC they have like different divisions of heights and ages and things like that. But then when you go to the pros, I mean, like especially with the height aspect of it, it's like everything is kind of thrown together. So it doesn't, there's no more separation. So sometimes you'll see people that are like really good in NPC, but but they can't do much like when they go pro just because it's all like together. So it's an interesting way of doing it. So you you did your show in the NPC show, and at what point did you switch over to like figure? Because I mean it's a significant difference between bikini and figure. So at what point did you start thinking, okay, like I want to do figure, I want to put that much muscle on my body, and so forth?
Well, actually, I never had to, at that point, work to put muscle on.
Hmm.
I'm building muscle's been super easy for me from day one. So
Okay.
what happened was I was competing in the bikini division, and I can't remember. I probably did 6 shows in bikini, and the last one, I got second in open and second in my age group.
Hmm.
And clearly my physique was much better than the person who won first. But the promoter pulled me off stage and said, I just want you to know you have an incredible physique, but we can't award you first because you don't fit that category anymore. You need to move over to figure.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I took, you know, probably 5 to 7 months off before I did my next competition.
Hmm.
um I did work on putting some more muscle on, and of course getting leaner, because you don't have to be quite as lean. You still be kind of soft for the bikini division. But once I moved over to figure, I started winning, not just my age group but in open as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm. So, so when you said you had to put some muscle on, was there like a particular body part that you were like, oh, I need to work on this, to be in figure? Was there something specific, or is it just kind of overall you were just polishing yourself up?
I'm pretty much overall, because overall I have the physique that figure is looking for:
Hmm.
wide shoulders, thick back, thin waist, and then, quad sweep. So I had the basis. It's just basically was fine tuning and bringing up my glutes a little bit. My glutes have always been pretty flat. So
Hmm.
every year I've been working on that. That's never going to go away, because at my age, that's just part of the deal.
Well, let me. And so, when did you get your pro card in figure?
It was July of 2018,
Okay.
and it
Yeah.
was my second national show.
Okay. Okay. And so at this point, are you still like, what are your plans as far as like the future is concerned? Are you continuing to compete? Are you going to compete in open? How's that? How's that laid out for you mentally, so to speak?
Well, when I first turned pro, that's not what I set out to do.
Hmm.
I set out to do one show.
Hmm.
And then, she said, move over to figure. Then I started doing well at figure. I won my class at my second figure show. I won open my class, but I lost to the overall. Somebody beat me in the overall. So
Hmm.
then the next show, my goal was to win overall. And this is an open.
Yeah.
And I'm just really goal oriented. And so once I meet that goal, I set a new goal. And so the new goal was, okay, I want to win and win overall. And so I went to the Tahoe show, won overall in 2017. When I got off stage, the judges were saying, hey, you really should go try, you've got the figure, you should go try a national show. And at that time I was like, I just wanted to win overall. And then they're like, this is an IFBB judge, and he's saying you need to go to a national show. And I'm like,
Hmm.
really? I don't know about this. It makes me a little bit nervous, but let me think about it. So that was August. And so in November, I went to Miami,
Hmm.
and I got ninth in my first national show. And I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to do this again.
Hmm.
You get into off season, then you're like, yeah, I don't want to give it up. I really kind of like it. So I actually at that time had gained 45 pounds. So for the
Oh, okay.
next national show, which is where NPC Universe, which is where I earned my pro card, which was my second national show, I had lost 45 pounds for that show.
Okay.
It was
What
in
is it?
16 weeks.
Oh, okay, that's what I was gonna ask you. So what was the time span in between? So 16 weeks, you dropped 45 pounds.
Correct.
So was this a lot of like, what would you attribute it to? Is this a lot of water weight, like post show rebound, like from your show prior, or
Can I say eating like an asshole?
I guess you just did. So yeah, there you go. So that's the reason, huh?
Off season's pretty hard. It's
Yeah.
taken me many years. every single year I've done, just a little bit better in the off season and not gaining too much weight. But you
Yeah.
know what? That first and second off season, 35, 45 pounds, that was normal.
Hmm.
Now we're down to about 15 to 20.
I mean, that's good. Like this 50% cut. That's awesome. I'm glad
A
to
lot
hear
of
that.
pros don't do that. They only gain like eight, maybe 8 to 10. But my off seasons are always right around the holidays. Not like that's a big deal, but I do
Yeah.
take that time to enjoy food
Yeah.
and then I get back on it.
Sure. Awesome. So what does 2021 like look like for you competitively?
So when I did my first few shows, um, I was getting 16th. I mean, everybody gets, once you get past 15, everybody gets 16th. So I'm like,
Right.
my goal basically with the first or second show was to make top 10 at an open pro show.
Hmm.
And I'm still questioning whether or not I can do that. I've been, I still compete in open.
Hmm.
Um, the women that are on stage, you know what? A lot of them, I'm standing right next to them and they've made it to the Olympia stage.
Hmm.
I love competing. I love being able to be on the IFBB stage. It's absolutely incredible. But at my age, I kind of figured, you know what? I might have to change my goals if I want to achieve it.
Hmm.
Of course, I, I'm goal oriented, so I'm not going to quit until I do.
Hmm.
So I revised that goal to eventually win a Masters Pro show. So
Okay.
in 2021, in 2020, this last season, I was a 4-time Masters Pro champion at
Oh,
Legion Sports Fest
wow.
and at the Baltimore Masters Show.
Awesome. That's great. I mean, those are some amazing achievements. And I like how you changed your goal, but you didn't just suspend them. Like a lot of times when people run into trouble, what they'll do is they'll just completely like, I don't want to say the word quit, but just basically just be done with it. And then, but in your case, I mean, you took it as a lesson. You made the appropriate and realistic adjustments, and then you went after it again. So I mean, I
Sure.
thought that's very cool. But I don't know if he actually answered my question. What about?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
So I just talked to my coach,
Hmm.
Damian Segovia with Pro Physiques is my
Hmm.
coach. And we're laying out a plan for what to do because I told my whole family this last season, I said, if I win a Masters Pro show, I'm only going to do one show a year. I'm
Hmm.
just going to just to stay healthy. I'm never going to quit lifting because I love that. That's the part of it that I absolutely love. That's not ever going to change. It's just the competition part of it.
Right. Right.
And so I said to Damien, I'm like, what should we do? And I said, on one hand, I still would like to do open shows because I feel like I do have the physique that could do fairly decent, but I might only get 16th. I don't know that I have the physique to make top 10 at
Hmm.
an open show. And he's like, you absolutely do. So this year I'm planning, I've got master shows in between October 2nd and um, December 4th. Some of those have open as well. So
Hmm.
some shows are just all master shows and some shows have masters and open.
Hmm.
So I'm planning on doing one open show early on in the year, and then sometime in June, and then probably do 4 or 5 shows in between October and December. I want them to be all right next to each other. I
Yeah.
like it that way.
4 or 5. So you went from maybe one to like now practically six
I
shows.
know, I know.
That's so
And you
fun.
know what? When we put that online, they haven't heard that. My
Oh
family
wow.
hasn't heard that. So, but they know me pretty well.
Yeah.
They know it's hard for me to
Yeah.
hang it up.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm not aware. I heard different things from different people, so I'm not 100% sure. Can you do an open and a masters in the same show?
Yes.
Okay, so that
So
that would be ideal.
yeah, Tampa, and I did Tampa this last year. The first
Hmm.
show that I did in 2020 was the Tampa Pro Show, and they had open and they had Masters 40 plus.
Okay.
So you had to be at least 40 to compete in the Masters.
Hmm. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Like at least especially on the men's side. Like I know with women sometimes it's a little different, but like on the open men's side, you'll have guys that are, you know, just hitting their prime when they're in their 35, like in the open bodybuilding one where they have a lot of mass on them.
Sure.
And so you have people like Dexter Jackson who are like top notch like in the open, but they're well qualified to do any kind of master show too. So it's just a little a little funny to look at it that way. So, but yeah, I mean,
Well,
I go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, 35. I mean, they have master shows that are 30. I'm 35 is pretty young.
Yes.
Master
Hmm.
shows at 35 plus, 40 plus. I mean,
Hmm.
at Legion Sports Fest, they have all the way up to 60 plus.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
So it's not
from
just
30.
one limit. It's like several master shows.
Oh, sorry.
Apparently,
Hey,
the dog didn't like what I said.
no, it was. Hey, stop it. Somebody's going by.
I got you.
Give
My
it
dog.
just a second.
My dog does the same thing. It's anytime she hears a car or people, it's like nonstop barking.
Yeah, they walk by and that's it. But 35 for a woman in the figure division is not that uncommon because it
Hmm.
does take quite a while to put on muscle mass. It's not always that, you've got
Hmm.
genetic freaks, like Sydney Gillen.
Hmm.
They're young and they have, great muscle mass. There's a ton of women out there who are young
Yeah.
because it's starting to be a little bit more popular and um, accepted
Right.
for women to lift and build muscle in today's day and age, and not just accepted, but people appreciate it.
Sure.
But in the most part, the late 20s, early 30s is when a woman has developed most of that muscle mass,
Hmm.
and those ages are doing well in the figure division.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get that. Yeah, I definitely think you should continue trying your hand in the open as well because I mean, it's all about picking the right shows and if you already have the structure and the build, I don't see any reason why you couldn't crack top 10 or even maybe top 5 in some of these shows. So I definitely think that's at least like should be an option for sure. So, but Carrie, there's not much more that I wanted to ask you. Do you do anything as far as like fitness is concerned? Do you train? Do you coach? Anything like that? Do you help people out online?
It's really funny. I haven't really dabbled too much into coaching. Um, my husband's an attorney and
Mhm.
I do the books and the billing for the office. And
Okay.
so I'm at a place where I don't really necessarily need to make money
Hmm.
in that sense. I really do enjoy helping people with diet.
Hmm.
But it's hard for me because it's hard for me to take on a client, for a monthly fee and have them not be ready to
I see.
really give it a go. And so I'm really kind of picky on the people that I choose to help in that sense. So what I'm doing right now is a little program called Cooking with Karrie. And
Okay.
so I do a couple of classes where I teach about macros. I talk about BMR. I talk about different things to get them started. I show them basically how to weigh food, that kind of stuff, just the basics to get them started.
Hmm.
And then I've had like 4 classes where they just come to my home and sit and watch me cook and measure and prep food.
Hmm.
I send them home with a meal. And so that's been, and I let them, I'm not coaching them. They just come and pay for daily if they show up. I like doing that. I like
Right.
helping people in that way. I'm not crazy about coaching people when I don't have to. I enjoy it. And anybody I knew who was serious, I'm pretty serious, I'm pretty goal oriented. So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to take money from somebody who's kind of like, oh, so in it.
Yeah. I
That
understand.
makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's it has to be. It's. you want to take money from somebody that you're you're really helping them, and if they don't really want to be helped, it's kind of like it just becomes like this weird situation. Yeah, I get
It's
it.
hard for me, and especially if I don't have to do that for a living. But I mean,
Right.
I have a great gym in my home.
Hmm.
Um, During quarantine, I spent quite a bit of time down there, 6 weeks.
Hmm.
And so I'm not opposed. I just want people who are serious.
Sure.
I do quite a bit of posing coaching, and I
Okay.
really enjoy that.
Okay, awesome. So let me ask you this. I was leading all this into like, how would it, how would you like to be contacted if somebody was, seriously interested, whether it's, you're just training or posing, coaching, posing, or even your outlet for cooking with Karrie.
I mean, basically just through Instagram. Most of my
Okay.
stuff is on, I mean, I'm on Facebook, but I don't do a lot. I just post from Instagram to Facebook. And I do it just occasionally. I've had people reach out to me and ask me questions, and I'm really good about getting back to people like that. But in terms of coaching, I would help somebody if they were wanting to compete in competitions.
Awesome. Okay.
I'm always up for people asking me questions about diet.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
training part's kind of like, eh.
You're very focused on the diet part.
Yeah, I mean, you have to kind of, I don't know. I train at a gym that's not your typical bodybuilding split,
Sure. Yeah.
and I love it. But a lot of people aren't that serious into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you said that. We were just thinking of like, so we're probably going to start training at home now. Me and my wife, um, we kind of got a little setup here, but we weren't like when I was younger. I wanted to go to like the hardcore gyms, the one where all the bodybuilders were, and then when I got a little bit older, I realized I don't, I don't necessarily need that. Like, I don't really need a lot to get benefits. So yeah, I completely understand. Like sometimes you'll see some people that are like that will go to what we like kind of boutique gyms, but they'll look great. So it's not necessarily indicative of the way your physique is going to look depending on what gym you go to. So
I'm pretty lucky that I've been able to build the amount of muscle that I have. And actually, I've told people before, if I did the normal bodybuilding split, and train for hypertrophy,
hmm.
I think I'd be huge. 'Cause
You would
I do
go
a
with
lot of,
women's physique.
I know, which I'm not, that's not something I want to do. I'm kind
No,
of
no.
funny. I don't ever go without shoes. So the
Oh,
thought of me stepping on stage with all that dirt, I'm like, yeah, that's not for me
yeah.
without heels, because I wear heels all the time. Even
Uh-huh.
my flip flops are heels.
That's funny. Yeah, well, no, I share your concern with germs and stuff, especially during this pandemic. So, for sure. So again, Karrie, thank you so much for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. I won't take up any more of your time. I know you're a very busy woman. I did want to say I like your background there. Your home's very nice, very pleasant looking. So,
Thank you
but
very much. The last podcast that I did was kind of, I'd never done one before. So I didn't have like a tripod. I was setting my phone up on, like
uh-huh.
a garbage can at the office, and the board in the back was really kind of ugly. I'm like, you know what? I should probably just, step it up.
Yeah,
Let's just do
yeah.
it in my house. The
Well,
lighting's not too bad.
Well, you definitely stepped it up. Yeah, it does look very like home based. So it looks really nice. But again, thank you for your time. Greatly appreciated. And it was nice to meet you. And you have a great rest of the day. Okay. All
You too.
right.
Thanks so
Take care.
much.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.